Hey, everybody, this is Mike Belmar from the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation coming to you from Flagler Voice Podcast Studios here in Palm Coast. And with me this morning, I have a special guest. But you hear me say that all the time because everybody comes on here is special. It really is. But Denise is going to be talking with us today. She is a current participant in the drug court program, doing extremely well. She's doing everything she needs to do. She's convinced she's on that road for recovery for the last time, and it will be a permanent thing. So let me introduce you to Denise. You're on.
Hi, Mr. Felbauer. How are you?
I'm well.
Thank you for having me here. So recovery, it's been an interesting road. My first trip into drugs was probably right after my daughter was born. She was about 2 years old, and I was about 25. Never thought I'd be there. Didn't do drugs when I was in high school, was an honor roll student, and it was a family member that got me introduced to it, I never, ever saw myself doing that. And within a month, I was gone. It took over my life in a month. Picked up a crack pipe, didn't want to put it down. And, it went on for a while, probably a year or two. And my daughter was turning about 2. I called my father, asked him if I could move to Florida, try and change the people, places, and things in my life. Needless to say, you get to Florida, nothing's any different if you run into the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
Started working at a restaurant. I'm not going to name names, but the owner did it. And we had become friends. So one day I finally just took a look in the mirror, looked at my daughter, and didn't want it anymore. Went to school, became a certified addictions professional, worked for a reality house, an act corporation. I started out as an intern, got hired on before I even graduated, worked there for a while. Took time off, raised my daughter. And I can't say it was an easy path because you always have that, what if the grass is greener on the other side if I just got high? Had a lot of years of recovery and got complacent. Even with all the training I had, and the tools I had, I got complacent in my recovery. And I had a traumatic-ish event happen. And I relapsed.
That's, you're telling a story. It's not unusual, but people need to hear it, particularly people that are not involved in the world of recovery. That we got to get this information out to the public so people understand what happens. And it's not an unusual story.
What I can say is I wish I had turned to the tools I knew when this event happened. I was raped. And I didn't know how to handle it. And instead of, everywhere I was turning, I had gotten into trouble a little bit before. I was on probation. And the charge I had wasn't a drug charge. I was accused of grand theft auto. And actually, even the people that are involved will tell you, I honestly didn't do it, but it was a thing of guardianship over, the person who had it. I went ahead and took the plea deal and ended up on probation and, still took responsibility for my part in it. And when I was raped, I relapsed and it caused me a violation of probation because I tested dirty. So in all this process of working with advocates at Family Life Center and all that, it's a funny story. I went to go to the hospital because I was still having some after effects from the rape and called 911 for an ambulance. My phone died in the process. So automatically when your phone cuts off with 911, they call the sheriff's department. I did not know my probation officer had just put a warrant out for me. So before the ambulance could come, the deputies came. And then I ended up at Staley's Green Roof Inn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, violation of probation, you get no bond. So I think I went in on November 15th and stayed there through Christmas, through Thanksgiving. And I will tell anybody, the worst thing you can do for yourself is put yourself in jail on the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing lonelier than making, Christmas stockings out of lunch bags for the inmates.
Yeah, or Thanksgiving as a bologna sandwich.
Yes. Actually, they gave us turkey.
You're not sure,
Christmas,
though.
we got bologna. So, as I was sitting there, they wanted me to do the SMART program and go back on probation. I praise Will and everything he does with the SMART program. But with me, I knew I needed that accountability. I needed more than just 3 months in treatment and in jail. Because to me, okay, you still have the chance of walking out of the jail and going and picking up.
Exactly.
The jail's in Bunnell. The hood's in Bunnell. The drugs are right there. You can walk right out the jail and walk into the projects and pick up whatever you want. So I went to my defense attorney and I said, I want to talk to drug court. So I waited 2 weeks, hadn't heard nothing. I was starting to think I wasn't going to get it. And I get pulled out of the pod one day and I call them my two angels, Mr. D, Miss Allison. And they sat and talked to me. And it was the first time I can actually say, being in jail, I felt like a person. It was not being shouted out. It was somebody actually wanting to help. And I know I cried before our interview was up because I was just so relieved that somebody was actually listening to what I had to say. So I talked to them for about an hour, did my intake. They said, okay, well, you have to sit in on court. You have to go to court, watch drug court, see how it goes. The judge will address you. So going to court, you're going in shackles and in the orange, and you're sitting there in a chair, and you can't turn around, you can't talk to anybody, And I walk in, and I see Mr. D and Miss Allison, and Mr. D's going, it's going to be okay. And the judge is talking and addressing everybody in drug court, and I watched one person go to jail that messed up, and my heart's pounding at 100 miles a minute going, what am I getting myself into? She called me up to the podium and she asked me why I was doing this because she said, 3 months you'd be out of jail where she'd have his probation. And I said, that's not going to work for me. And the state's attorney looked at me and he said, are you crazy? And I said, what do you mean? He says, 3 months and a little bit of probation and you're done. And I said, and in 3 months you could find me dead. And so I asked her, I said, I don't want to do SMART. I don't want to sentence out. I want to learn something. And she said, okay. She said, but be prepared. Mr. D hasn't put in his recommendation yet on inpatient or outpatient. You could be going to inpatient. I said, if that's what I need, if that's what he thinks, then that's what I'll take. I said, I would really like to do outpatient. So I had to wait 2 more weeks to go back to court. And I hadn't seen Mr. D or Miss Allison because, you don't have that communication in between there. And I walked in the court. And the first thing I saw was Mr. D, and he gave me a thumbs up. Everything's going to be okay. And they gave me drug court, outpatient. And, I had to report to probation and all that afternoon, and Mr. D that afternoon. Well, God forbid you get back to the jail, get put in the holding cells, and the computers go down. So I didn't get out of jail till 3:45 and was supposed to be at the courthouse at 4 o'clock. When I was arrested, it was November. It was 80 degrees out. I went to jail in shorts and a T-shirt. I get out of jail. It's January, and it's 40 degrees out in shorts and a T-shirt. So the house I was staying in was right down the street from the jail. So I was like, I have to go get clothes. And I had talked to Mr. D in jail, and I said, sometimes the jail does not let you out before the courthouse. He says, we'll come in the next day. So here I'm panicking, first day out, didn't make my appointment. I'm going to go to jail tomorrow. And went in the next morning. We had our very first UA, but I wasn't in the program yet. Hadn't signed the papers, so I didn't have to do that. Went in, spoke to him, and he laid out all the things for us that we had to do, And I had heard the horror stories about drug court and jail. Don't do drug court. Don't do this. And I will tell you, Mr. Feldbauer, it has been the best experience I've ever had. I have learned so much and gotten a family out of it that, I'm not very close with my family because of the choices I've made and the actions I've done. There's still a lot of amends to be made. But the support you have in drug court and from the foundation and from probation and from the judge herself is unbelievable. I've never seen a judge that is more caring about what is going on with us. And in fact, we were sitting in court yesterday and you heard her make a comment about if she was broken down on the side of the road, she knew one of us would stop before one of her colleagues would. And for her to have that much respect for what's going on in our lives, and even at graduations, she's not there, she's there as a judge, but she's also there as a mentor. And that I really appreciate. There's a lot of work that goes on in drug court. There's, anybody that thinks that it's going to be easy taking drug court and finishing it, they don't realize how much work takes into it.
Let me ask you a question on that exact topic. Is it any more difficult than being in an active addiction?
No, because we as addicts go out and we will do anything possible to get high. So I look at it this way. If you want to be clean, you will do anything possible to be clean. So if it means going to 5 and 6 meetings a week, going to groups, in drug court, you do a group session on Wednesday. You do 3 on Thursdays, the first, 2 phases you're in. You have to do so many meetings. You have to do one-on-ones. It's a lot. You have to rearrange your schedule. And then you have the thing of, okay, when you're getting out of jail and you're an addict and you have drug charges, who's going to hire me? And we have to have a job by phase 2, because there are fees to pay. You pay for that treatment. This is not a free ride. We made our mistake to go into jail. It's time to pay for it. But, and my story is, drugs and illness messed up my teeth. So nobody wanted to hire me. Thank God Foundation and probation, they helped out. Got a job right afterwards. Mm-hmm. Every other didn't care about my background. So the perception that, I hate to say it, but somebody said to me, people judge you in the first 3 seconds they know you. It is true. We learn life skills. We have life skills classes, building resumes, how to answer questions at jobs, diving into what's going on with us. Our one-on-one sessions. I had a one-on-one this morning before this. And, wonderful session. I've learned to become more comfortable talking about my addiction, where before I hid it. What are people going to think about me? I live in a recovery house. I live at Oxford. I have been there. I left for about a month, came back, switched houses. I have a great support system in the house I'm in. Was able to go to the state convention with Oxford houses, learn about recovery there. I've been able to go to First Fridays with you and give out Narcan. And some of the responses you hear are funny, but to give back after everything that we do to get high and take away from people, it feels good. I'm coming on 9 months sobriety on Tuesday. I'm going to pick up my 9-month key tag, and for me, that's a milestone. I mean, I had years of sobriety, but starting over again, I was telling my sponsor, doing my steps again. I still have my book from when I did my steps 20 years ago. And looking back at the answers that I wrote then and I wrote now, it is so different because now I'm actually taking the time to explore where I'm at, and see the difference in me. Service work, everything that we take for granted from other people, I've learned to enjoy. Before I wouldn't have talked in a meeting. Now, I like sharing in my meetings. I like knowing the fact that I can go to a meeting when I'm feeling bad and there's support there. I like the fact that I know I can call Mr. D from drug court and say, I'm having a bad day. Can you listen to me? My new counselor, we did switch counselors at Epic. My new counselor I have at Epic, she's wonderful. And give a shout out to Michelle. She listens really, really well. With me, it's a little bit more difficult. Being diagnosed with cancer, I have a little bit of, anxiety on how to handle things, because when you're going through chemo and radiation, the doctors like to throw whatever they can at you to keep you comfortable. And so it was a very hard moral decision for me on whether I was going to take anything for pain or that. I went to my sponsor, and this is stuff I wouldn't have done years ago. I would have just taken it. I went to my sponsor. I went to Mr. D. I talked to the judge. I think me and you even talked about it when you came and visited at the hospital on what to do. And, I have come to the conclusion that, I'm strong enough in my recovery, but yet I let the doctor dictate. I don't keep pain medication in my house. I don't keep it in my possession. They had given me a script. It's still sitting in Publix. Because one of the side effects from chemo is vertigo with me. And I have not gotten to that point other than a couple times I was in the hospital where they had to do a surgical procedure that I really needed it. I've tried to stay with Toradol or whatever. So I've yet to pick it up.
Excellent.
In the hospital, they did give me medication. I did have somebody tell me that I needed to go back and get a white tag, and I said, you don't understand recovery very well then. I did not relapse. This was a medical necessary thing. But I was talking to my counselor about it this morning, and she wanted to know if it was a moral thing with me, if I was worried about how people were going to perceive me, or if it was just I wasn't to the point where I thought I needed it. And I think 9 months ago, I would have been worried if somebody saw it, if they knew that the doctor had given me a prescription because of what I'm going through. Now it is, I just don't want it unless it's absolutely necessary. I enjoy my clarity. I enjoy going out on First Friday and giving out Narcan and explaining to people the wonders of Narcan. I enjoy doing the stuff that we do in drug court, going bowling. Mm-hmm. You set up bowling for us that one night, and we had a blast. I think it was 15 of us went, and we sat there for 2 or 3 hours, had dinner, bowled, and had a good time, and just the fellowship. Or even, people don't realize, they say, oh, you have to go to court every 2 weeks. Drug court is not a penalizing court. It's not like criminal court. It is treatment court. And people don't get that. They hear drug court, oh, you have to jump through all these hoops, but it is treatment. It's family. We have the best providers. We have the best clinicians. The best support system, foundation. The wonders that you do with foundation. Your Monday night meetings, Mr. Mike. First one I went to last Monday. I loved it. I didn't even know you had them. I should have kept up more. But just to know that support is there through everything. And it's not just about financial. It's emotional. It's, if you need that friend, pick up, and call. If you're having a bad time, pick up and call. Come out and share fellowship at First Friday. Even going to court. Anybody that ever wants to see a true family, go sit in on drug court and watch us, because we are a family. We're there to support each other, from graduations to accomplishments to phase ups. We are not sitting there solemn. We're clapping, we're laughing, we're joking around with the judge. It's not always fun and games. People do mess up, people do go back, but you learn from that too.
Yep, you do. Now let me interrupt you for a minute or so. I want everybody who's listening to understand and to realize that what Denise has been through, what she's currently going through, not just with her recovery, but with her medical issues, she is a prime example of hope.
Thank you.
And that's what this show is really all about. That's what the Drug Court Foundation is all about, providing hope for people that are struggling in their recovery, and keep giving hope to those who are being successful in their recovery, saying it's there, helping them in the things that the court, what the foundation does is we help participants in the things the court can't do for them. Not every participant needs our help, but those who do need it, if we can, we will. And that's the whole premise, providing the hope, because if you keep hanging on to hope, you will succeed.
Yes.
You will succeed. And I am happy to say, in getting to know Denise over this period of time that she's been in the program, she is a phenomenal example for all the other participants that are doing what they're doing to try to get their recovery under control. And with the battles that you've gone through, and I don't say you're going through those battles so you can do this. That isn't how your battles came about. But the fact that you are conquering it, you're not letting those things change your road to recovery. It's still going forward. So you are a phenomenal example for the participants and others out there that aren't in any program, to know that with all the struggles, you can do it. But it's your decision. Okay, none of us can make the decision on whether you want recovery for real. And we tell people that the majority of people that come into the drug court program, unlike you requesting it, use it as strictly as a get out of jail card. And it could take 2, 3, 4 months before you get a commitment out of that person to really concentrate on the recovery. And more often than not, it happens. We get some people that'll work it all the way through. And you can't complain that somebody's been clean for a year. Okay, if they get through the program and don't have any relapses, we've kept them alive for that period, or they've kept themselves alive for that period of time. But more often than not, sometime during the period that they're in there, they get the idea that, you know what, this is pretty good. I'm going to really start concentrating on it. And we never know when that's going to happen. As you know, when you look back at your first round of recovery and then look at your books today, things were different. You were different.
Yes.
So you are today a recovered person as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
You haven't completed the program, but you will. And there'll be a time that you'll go to a meeting and say, hey, my name is Denise and I'm in long-term recovery. And you're going to be able to talk to those people that need that encouragement. You'll end up being a sponsor instead of being the sponsee. I would also, and I might be out of turn, encourage you, because of your background in substance abuse help, is to get your certification as a certified recovery peer specialist. Okay, and we will help you with that. If any of the participants are serious about it and want to do it, we'll pay for at least the first part of the program, which is a 40-hour online class if you want to do it that way. It costs $100 or so. We pay for that. We need recovery specialists in our community. The world is beginning to understand that a big part of real recovery going on are these people that have been there, done that, won the T-shirt, but have then learned the techniques and what they need to do to help people in that area. It's beyond being a sponsor.
Yes.
Okay. Us in the foundation, we're not sponsors, we're mentors. So we take a different responsibility role in that. If we can help, you talked about the life skills and things like that. So if we can help with job training. I just interviewed a woman who is a very successful realtor here in Flagler County and understands what we're doing and has offered, if anybody, they've got to be out of the program with no felony. So they be success with the felony being wiped away, which is what happens to a majority of our people. Yes. She will pay for them to get the real estate license.
That is awesome.
So we're finding more businesses that want to cooperate and help. You talked about the program where they come in and do the job training and how she's done with that in that program, that particular program. So we want to have, the court wants to get you to the point where you've had good treatment, you've made the decision on recovery, and then we want to help in any way we can. When you're either during the program or after the program, you go to do something better than you were doing before that might have got you back into it.
Yes.
So if we can be more help, and we tell people that I'm extremely proud of our jail. Okay. Sheriff Staley, who's a great marketeer, but he also has done a phenomenal job in hiring the right people to help. The chief out at the jail and the program that they put together out there, you won't find in other jails. The two recovery pods they have out there, one for men and one for women. The SMART program, which gives opportunity for 5-day-a-week recovery training of treatments at some point. You don't find that
in other
jails. You know, he said, well, you screw around, we're going to arrest you, but we're also, while you're here, we're going to give you an opportunity to learn how not to come back. He doesn't want you coming back. And so we have that going for us in our county. The drug court program, I've been involved with it now for 12 years, or maybe 13, I can't keep track anymore. The one here is unusual compared to other programs. And our judge, she will tell you that she's been involved as a judge in other programs in the state, but ours is a very unusual program here. We work very closely. Our team really cares, even though most of the team are paid people, but most of that team has a real heart.
Yes, they do.
To want these people to recovery. They're not just in it because they have to punch the clock and be in court for their job. They're out there doing the best they can. And like you said, this is not a regular court. This is what officially they call a diversion court. We want to divert you from going to jail or prison. Sometimes we can't do that. But that's a choice not that we want to make, and anything we can do to help that from happening. But if the party at the other end doesn't, sometimes it happens. Sometimes the sanction might be jail for a short period of time because we don't want them going further. So the program works.
Yes, it does.
And seeing success stories like we see when we're looking at where you are, what you've gone through, is what keeps the rest of us going. Because I can tell you, people on this side, we've learned to be bipolar. Because we see the happiness, the good stories, as we're seeing with you, and then we get the phone call once in a while. And in order to keep us at it, we need the successes as much as you need your success.
Yes.
And we are so happy to have gotten to know you and know that your continual recovery will be, without a question, successful.
Thank you.
So unless you have a closing remark, if you'd like, we're going to get this to an end today.
I just really, anybody that really is interested in recovery, if you're in jail or in that spot where you have the chance to take drug court or SMART, do it. Save your life. You know, let these people help you. Don't wait for your family to get that phone call.
You got it.
Because they do happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Felber.
Well, thank you, and God bless you. We'll talk again.
Okay.